What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. As of right now, we have only 10 more days to go until Classic releases. Throughout the summer, I've been sharing my thoughts about the beta and stress tests on my stream as well as various podcasts, Discord conversations, etc. But it's been a while since we had a gameplay related chat here on YouTube. Let's take a few minutes to talk about where everything stands with just over 1 week until launch day. Let's get the obvious negative stuff out of the way first. Layering is absolute garbage. I allowed Blizzard to woo me into believing that layering was the lesser of the evils when it comes to managing server populations at launch. But the reality is it's just as bad as sharding in terms of the impact it has on gameplay and server economy. At this point, tons of clips have surfaced of people randomly being reassigned to a different layer, even while in combat and even while grouped with other players. It's kind of concerning to see that type of stuff happening 10 days before launch, and it's obviously going to cause some problems. Not only is random layer hopping going to be incredibly annoying, but it has proven to be highly exploitable, just as I predicted in a video back in May. There will be too many Black Lotus, too many Title Charms, too many Arena Grandmaster chests, and too many Devil Stars. Prices will be low and the world will be less competitive and less dangerous, and that's kind of a bummer. The good news is that earlier today, Blizzard renewed their promise to remove layering before Phase 2. I gotta be honest, I have trouble believing anything Activision Blizzard tells us in 2019, but I do trust the Classic team. They've proven they are committed to doing this right. Hopefully they'll be able to stick to their word, because layering would really screw up the game if it's still around in Phase 2. So, moving on. As most of you guys know, I've always been a hardcore no changes guy, but recently, a few specific issues have caused me to question if hardline no changes is really the best idea. Two particular things have really given me pause: spellbatching and leeway. You guys know that earlier this year I was at the very front of the pitchfork mob demanding spellbatching, and you know how happy I was when it got confirmed. Unfortunately, the way it's implemented right now just doesn't feel good. The batching window is too big and the tick rate is way too slow, and it feels kinda sloppy. There's also the problem of actions such as looting a mob or clicking the Warsong Gulch flag being on a batch, which is very different than how those things worked on private servers, and I believe it has a negative effect on gameplay. Assuming what we have right now is a 400 ms tick rate, then I believe the game would feel much better with a 200 ms or possibly even 100 ms tick rate. The way spellbatching is implemented at the moment on Classic basically feels like artificial lag, and it can be kind of frustrating in PvP. As for leeway, according to Blizzard, leeway existed in vanilla and is working as intended. This one is difficult to prove with video footage from 2005, so we really have to take Blizzard at their word that leeway was a thing back in the day. However, regardless of whether it existed in vanilla, I'm not totally convinced it belongs in Classic. Supposedly, leeway was a feature to make the game playable for melee back when internet wasn't nearly as fast as it is today, and the hitboxes of enemies were often not actually where they appeared to be on your screen. This makes total sense to me. What doesn't make sense to me is keeping this mechanic in the game when the end result in 2019 really changes the way combat feels. Melee, including mobs, have the ability to hit you from up to 10 yards away because of leeway, and it really doesn't feel like it did on private servers. Now, obviously private servers were not completely accurate. I've also recently learned from a Nostalrius staff member that Nostalrius had both 400 ms batching and melee leeway. So at this point, even if the implementation of these features in Classic feels different than private servers, it's clearly authentic, and it looks like we will just need to adapt. I recently took part in an in-depth discussion about these topics with a couple of friends, which you can hear on the most recent episode of the Countdown to Classic podcast if you're interested. So, those are my 3 big issues: layering, leeway, and the fact that spellbatching feels a little sloppy and inconsistent. Is it too late for these things to change before launch? Probably. Should they even be changed at all when they've been confirmed to be authentic? That's not for me to say, but let me know how you feel in the comments. Regardless, we have to hope the Classic team continues some level of development after launch and listens to the community about these things. That, and pray to whatever god you believe in that Blizzard keeps their promise to remove layering, because it will really ruin the game if it stays beyond Phase 1. There are a couple other things that have kind of frustrated me, namely the fact that Blizzard seems to be recreating bugs in the name of no changes. Blizzard and Cone of Cold are extremely unreliable, as you can see in this clip, and Hunter Traps have a chance to simply not work if the player moves through them with some type of speed boost active. While these things are a bit annoying from a gameplay perspective, at the end of the day we asked for no changes, and that's exactly what we're getting. bugs, and everything. I'd be a hypocrite if I complained. There are some things that are changes that still haven't been fixed. The modern game engine updates player positions mid-air, unlike the vanilla engine that only updates your position once you have landed. This disables some cool PvP tricks, such as fake jumping off a ledge as a mage and blinking back up. The Warsong Gulch map also still shows the position of enemy flag carriers, which is definitely wrong and has a big impact on the meta. Hopefully this stuff gets fixed down the road. To wrap things up here, let's step back and take an objective look at the final product we're being given. All things considered, it's pretty fucking awesome. When Classic WoW first got announced 2 years ago, I was very skeptical. I was basically expecting them to give us the modern game with a level cap of 60 and tell us to fuck off. I wasn't even planning on playing Classic at that point. Then patch 1.12 got announced and Blizzard had my attention. Then progressive content release got announced and I started to get excited. Then came the removal of loot trading, the implementation of spell batching, and the promise of no cash shop. It became clear that the Classic team was committed to delivering a high quality, authentic product. The reality is that if you had shown me this final product on the day Classic was first announced, I would have been absolutely blown away. At this point, they've gotten so close to the real thing that it's all too easy to sit around and nitpick about specific issues like Cone of Cold being inconsistent or melee leeway feeling a little bit off. Our expectations for how authentic Classic should be have steadily risen higher and higher throughout the past 2 years. All things considered, what we are being given is pretty great. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned because I should have at least one more big, juicy guide coming at you guys before launch. And make sure you follow my Twitch channel because that's where you're going to find me once the game goes live, and I plan to be going pretty hard. One more quick thing. I've never monetized anything on YouTube since I started creating content, and I don't even have a donation button on my Twitch page right now. That being said, today was my last day at work, and I'm definitely going to need some support from you guys while I chase the Rank 14 dream. Donations will be enabled on Twitch shortly. Subs are greatly appreciated, and I should have a Patreon page going live within the next week for those of you that are really enjoying the content. Any and all support is greatly appreciated while I throw my life away to play this beautiful game. Classic is coming, boys. Get your poop socks ready. I'll see you on Fairlina in 10 days.